It seems that every time Kia redesigns the Sportage, they're targeting a different shopper. This time around, the Sportage is less focused on sport, much more focused on fuel economy, a roomy cabin, a tech-laden cabin, and a quiet and comfortable cabin. Also, definitely high style, but certainly polarizing. In Kia's crossover lineup, we have sort of a design sandwich going on. We have vehicles that are universally considered attractive. The Telluride and the Seltos are very attractive. They bookend their crossover lineup. And then in the middle, we have the Sportage and the Sorento, which are, let's be honest, controversial to say the least. There is a lot going on the front end design here of the Sportage, and that's why it's not exactly my cup of tea, I think. We have this boomerang thing going on here. We also have this orange accent strip. The LED turn signals are above that, 2 LED headlights, 2 LED fog lights down below, and then just tons of different shapes and things going on up front. This is very, very boldly styled, I would say, and it's definitely very polarizing because I have met people this week that thought this was the best looking thing they have ever seen, and I think they probably need to have their eyes checked because this is my least favorite Kia going on as far as style, because there's just so much going on. We have this hood that mimics the Tiger Nose grille a little bit. I have to say the build quality is excellent because that cut line is very difficult to do, but all the materials and textures and everything clashing together, let me know what you think about that. Is this as attractive as the Telluride, or am I the crazy one and this is the attractive one in Kia's lineup? Likely less controversial than the front-end styling is the size of the Sportage, which has gone from one of the smallest entries to one of the largest at 183.5 inches long. Only the Tiguan and the Outlander are larger than this, and they sport an optional third row in the back. The two big beneficiaries to the size increase are rear seat legroom. We now have best-in-class combined legroom, and the cargo area in the back, which is absolutely cavernous. Compared to the front-end styling, the back-end styling of the Sportage is certainly much more restrained, and also I think a lot easier to clean. We don't find as many 3D surfaces back here, so it's going to be a lot easier to clean and dust your vehicle. We have full LED taillight modules, which is a nice touch, rather than the combination modules we find in so many of the options. Amber turn signals right here. The backup light is down there in the middle of the bumper at the bottom. Since we're already talking about controversial subjects, let's talk about the paint job. This is the optional $500 matte paint that we see available on a wide variety of different Kias. This is significantly more affordable than matte paint has been on cars in the past. Generally, it's been an option only on luxury cars for $5,000 or $10,000. I would love to hear from anybody that has a vehicle with a matte paint job, especially if you've owned it for a few years. Let me know down there in the comment section. Does it look as good now as it did when it was new? I really wanted matte paint on the EV6 that we bought as a long-term vehicle, but I was afraid of the long-term maintenance costs. Will it look as good now as it should in a year? Will it start getting some shiny spots here and there because you dusted it wrong? Is it China doll delicate, or is it actually more robust than I've been thinking? Let me know down there because I haven't been able to find any really good long-term information on matte paint. But I suspect we're all going to find out soon because it's such an affordable option that I am starting to see a lot of matte paint Kias on the road, and I just wonder what's that going to look like in a few years. This hybrid system is essentially shared with the Sorento, the Santa Fe, the Tucson, and a number of other vehicles. On this side, we have a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which is definitely different than we find in the competition. Thanks to the turbo, this engine is really torquey, 195 pound-feet in its own right. So even if the battery is completely depleted, this is going to feel peppier than an Escape, a RAV4, or a CR-V in the same situation. It's also going to feel more traditional because on this side, we have a 6-speed automatic transmission, and then the electric motor is placed between the engine and the transmission, bringing the total power up to 227 horsepower. Things are backed up by an onboard 1.5 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack, and you can choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive model is one of the most efficient available in this segment at 44 miles per gallon combined. If you choose all-wheel drive, that drops way down to 38 miles per gallon. And there's a reason. This is a mechanical all-wheel drive system, so similar to what we find in the Escape hybrid and the CR-V hybrid, but very different than the e-all-wheel drive system we find in the RAV4. If you're trying to decide between the hybrid Sportage and the non-hybrid Sportage, consider the savings. Versus the non-hybrid model, the hybrid option is going to save you about $1,000 a year at $5 a gallon. And the hybrid option is going to cost you between $900 and $1,300, depending on the version of the Sportage you get. So payback time could be a little under a year, or it could be maybe about as much as 18 months. But even if you're leasing a Sportage, the hybrid option is going to end up saving you money. Over a week of driving the Sportage, I found the driver's seat to be quite comfortable. This has a two-way adjustable lumbar support, power driver's seat with two-position memory over there on the door. We have a manual tilt telescopic steering column with a large range of motion. And then over here on the passenger side, we have a seat that's almost as adjustable as the driver's seat. It's just lacking the two-way lumbar. Now remember that this model is the top-end SX trim, so obviously you're going to find less capable seating in the base model. Of course, the biggest change happens in the back seat area where we have gobs of room. Again, this is one of the roomiest vehicles in this segment. It's class leading in terms of combined legroom, tying with the Tucson and the Subaru Forester, which is also very roomy on the inside. But I find these back seats to be a little bit more comfortable than the ones in the Subaru. They're honestly really similar to the Tucson. Moving to the middle seat, you'll certainly find less room across the back here than you'll find in something like the Hyundai Santa Fe. I do think the Santa Fe is a really appropriate competitor to this, especially in top-end trims, because the Santa Fe is right here within the same pricing range. It's also made by the Hyundai Kia conglomerate, and it has the same hybrid system, of course. Moving over to the right side of the vehicle, this front seat's all the way back in its tracks. I still have several inches of legroom left. This is a very accommodating back seat. Rear seats are easy to fold. There's a little lever right there so that way you can give the seats a recline, and they have about 7 inches or so of recline. I can put them in a really uncomfortable upright position to square off that cargo area, but still use the seat, or I could lean it all the way back to actually be fairly comfortable. Even in a natural, fairly upright seating position, I have about 1.5 inches of headroom. This one does have the large panoramic moonroof. If you're concerned about front headroom or rear headroom, you want to skip the moonroof because it does cut that down a bit. Between the power hatch and the second row seats, we find nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo capacity. This has a cargo area about the same size as a Ford Edge, significantly bigger than the average compact crossover in the US, and it really shows in our bag test. I was able to squeeze 8 24-inch roller bags back here. That's at least 2 bags better than the average for the compact crossover segment. To do that, I did have to put the load floor at its lowest height, so just simply drop that down there, and then you can fit a bit more luggage in the vehicle. It really squares things off. And if I lift this out of the way, you'll notice we do have a unicorn for a hybrid, a compact spare tire. You don't find a spare tire at all in the CR-V hybrid, and in here and in the RAV4, you could put a full-size spare if you wanted to aftermarket. It would certainly fit there under the floor. As we look around the interior, keep in mind this is the very top-end SX trim, so we have this incredibly large panoramic moonroof that goes to almost over the rear passengers' heads. Driver and front passenger get height-adjustable shoulder belts. We also have two-way adjustable headrests with a very eccentric shape. This little cutout right here, that's so that you can hang a jacket or coat or something like that right there on that headrest back. That's pretty practical, and it's definitely a lot easier to use than the hooks that we find on the grab handles right up there in the ceiling. Moving over to the front doors, we find lots of soft touch materials up here. Soft touch upper section of the door, soft touch midsection. You will find hard plastics lower on the door. And this interior has this really attractive brick red imitation leather upholstery. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section. The upholstery in this vehicle is perforated because the 2 front seats are heated and ventilated. And then if we move on over to the front doors, we can see one of the newer design trends in Hyundai and Kia's lineup. This kind of little shark's fin thing going on right there. That's to help keep you from bumping against some of those controls, apparently. I'm not the biggest fan of that look, and you should know that the plastic section right there in front that makes that barrier, that's actually a hard plastic, so that's where your knees are going to be resting, not against the softer material like the rest of the armrest. The interior is definitely a big departure from the rest of the styling in the Kia lineup, so definitely not like a mini version of the Telluride. Instead, we have these shark's fin sort of like air vents on the passenger side, and then one over here on the driver's side as well. A bit more surprising, however, is this large LCD cluster setup. You're going to find something very similar even in the base versions of the Sportage. The base version is going to get an 8-inch infotainment screen, but it's still going to get a just over 12-inch instrument cluster that's an LCD. However, the bezel does change, and that's a key thing to know. The only models that you'll find this smooth bezel in are the mid-level and upper-level trims. The very base version is going to have kind of a boring little single plastic cover over here, and then some black plastic, and then a step down into the 8-inch screen that's going to be in the middle of the dashboard. But moving back over here to the passenger side, we find a decently sized bin-style glove compartment. I was able to fit a large 10-inch tablet computer inside, and then we have lots of interesting trim around here. This is sort of an imitation knurled metal look, although it's pretty believable. Large air vents right here in the center. Again, this one has this absolutely enormous touchscreen infotainment system. This is one of the largest you'll find in the segment, and you will find this in the mid-level and upper-level trims. Down here, we have another kind of polarizing option. This is something that I have gotten used to in our long-term Kia EV6, but I'm not the biggest fan of combining infotainment controls and climate controls in this same button module. Because invariably, if I want to reach for the volume knob, I end up having it actually on the climate setting and I adjust the temperature inside the cabin, or if I want to adjust the temperature, then I end up changing the tuning or the volume knob. This is a touchscreen LCD section right there. And then we have physical knobs for some of these other options. Below that, we find a single Qi wireless charging mat right in there. One USB input for the infotainment system and then one USB charge-only port. It is tricky to leave some of those larger smartphones connected, and they will have to get connected because although CarPlay and Android Auto are supported up here, they're only supported wired with this infotainment system. If you get the base model, then it does have wireless CarPlay. We find the engine start-stop button over here, the controls for the heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, lots of piano black plastic here. Rotary style shifter, which I have gotten used to and I don't mind at all. Down here we have the drive mode selector along with a lock to request a more aggressive connection of that center coupling in the all-wheel drive system. Over here we have the auto brake hold button, 360-degree camera access button, and then behind that we have a padded center armrest with a pretty large storage area. And as you can see, this storage area is conjoined here with the cup holders. So if you'd rather have your phone, say, in this area, again, not when it's plugged in, then you can do that. And then we press these buttons to have the cup holders pop out of the side. The LCD instrument cluster has adjustable themes. They're selected right here in the infotainment center. They can either be linked to the drive mode or you can select between 3 different themes. There's A, there's B, and then there's C. But as we see in other Kia vehicles, the rest of the instrument cluster is not overly configurable. You can just cycle through the various options on the display with this little toggle and the button above to change between things like turn-by-turn navigation directions, active safety readouts, etc. The steering wheel itself is one of Kia's newest designs. It has sport grips up top. It's leather-wrapped with paddle shifters on the back. We then find volume and infotainment controls over here on the left side, controls for the adaptive cruise control and lane centering system over here on the right. Now it's time to get the Sportage out on the road. 0 to 60 happened in this model in 7.1 seconds. That's a pretty respectable time and right in line with the rest of the hybrid competition. Most notably, of course, the Toyota RAV4 hybrid. But the way this feels is very, very different from the Toyota hybrid system, because if I come down here to a stop again and floor it, you'll notice we get actual shifts. They're very crisp, they're quick, and there are 6 of them as you accelerate, because again, this has a real, actual automatic transmission. So if you've never really cared for the way that Toyota's hybrid systems feel out on the road, you might want to take a look at this. You should know that the Ford Escape hybrid system and the Honda CR-V hybrid system are going to feel quite similar to the Toyota hybrid system, even though the Honda system is based on a completely different principle. The reason those hybrid systems feel different than this one is because they're using the motor in a very different way. All 3 of those vehicles have a very large electric motor, and that's what's really moving the vehicle down the road most of the time. In the Honda system, below 45 miles an hour, the hybrid system cannot power the vehicle alone simply using the gasoline engine. It's not possible. The electric motor is all you have. That's why it feels somewhere between an electric car and a vehicle with a traditional CVT. This, on the other hand, has a much smaller motor, and it's going to feel more like a traditional gasoline vehicle that can also operate in EV mode from time to time. As you'd expect out of a full hybrid vehicle, this has an electric-only drive mode, but it's a little bit different than the others. The speed range for this is a bit higher than we find in some of the competitive hybrids out there, so this will sometimes be in EV mode at 80 miles an hour out on the highway. And it's going to feel a bit different, because when you're starting from a stop sign or a stoplight, even in EV mode, you're going to feel the transmission shifting. Again, 6-speed automatic. And you're going to feel that transmission shifting as you're slowing down. So if I put my foot on the brake pedal, we get blended braking, and you can feel the transmission downshifting, powering that electric motor. Stopping distance in this vehicle is pretty reasonable, 122 feet, so pretty in keeping, again, with the rest of the hybrid competition, but logically a little bit longer than the base version of the Sportage, because this is going to be a little bit heavier. When it comes to handling, the Sportage does pretty well. The steering is a little on the numb side, but it's very precise, and the levels of grip in here are pretty good. You can definitely drive this pretty hard out on your favorite winding mountain road. The Sportage is a surprising amount of fun, even though this is really tuned towards the softer side of things. This is definitely a sharper handling vehicle in terms of its handling ability versus the RAV4 and the CR-V Hybrid. If you haven't checked out my video on the CR-V Hybrid, be sure and check that out. If it's not on the channel yet, that's because I'm probably not supposed to really be talking about the CR-V Hybrid yet, so be sure and stay tuned for that. But this does have a really good sharp feel. It's very, very much like the Tucson Hybrid. This is obviously very closely related to the Tucson Hybrid, and it certainly feels sharper than the Sorento Hybrid or the Santa Fe Hybrid, which are the next size category up from the Hyundai-Kia conglomerate. Speaking of the Hyundai-Kia conglomerate, it is weird that Hyundai and Kia combined have 4 crossovers that are not terribly far off in terms of size, that all use this exact same hybrid system or the available plug-in hybrid system. We have the Tucson, we have the Sportage, we have the Santa Fe, and then we have the Sorento. The Sorento is the 3-row option, but it's a small 3-row option. We then have the Santa Fe, that is a sort of largish 2-row option. It's a mid-size crossover technically. Then we have this, and we have the Tucson that are on the large side of the compact segment. If you're confused, don't worry. You probably just want to shop based on price and size needs and just pick one of the 4, I guess. When designing this suspension, I think that Kia did a really good job balancing handling ability and ride quality, and I give both an A. This doesn't feel quite as sharp in terms of the steering engagement as a Mazda CX-5, but the absolute grip numbers are better than the CX-5. And the suspension is really well tuned. It performs well when there's just a driver in here or when the vehicle is fully loaded, something that we don't quite see in all the competition. A RAV4, for instance, can sometimes feel a little unsettled in the rear if it's just the driver in the vehicle, and then it settles down a bit more if you have 2 or 3 passengers in it, but you'll definitely notice a bit more of a difference. In here, things are very well controlled and they're pretty comfortable. This is definitely an excellent highway cruiser. The suspension soaks up large bumps and small bumps pretty well. It's also very quiet. I'm going to give cabin noise an A+, because I measured just 70 decibels in here at 50 miles an hour, making this one of the quietest entries in this segment. This is definitely quieter than the RAV4 Hybrid. It's also quieter than the new CR-V Hybrid. And if you're the kind of person that's sometimes annoyed by the way some of those hybrid systems sound as far as the engine sound coming into the cabin, this is not only very muted, but it's going to feel very traditional, I guess you'd say. So even if I use these paddle shifters here to rev the engine all the way up, it's pretty quiet, and it's going to be right in sync with what the car's doing. The one area where the Sportage definitely falls behind the RAV4 is fuel economy. I've been averaging 37 miles per gallon over a week of mixed driving, and over the approximate year we had our long-term RAV4 Hybrid, we averaged 40 miles per gallon. That RAV4 Hybrid is incredibly efficient. Now, there is a twist. If you want better fuel economy, you could get the front-wheel drive version of this. That will get you over 40 miles per gallon combined. But this all-wheel drive model, according to the EPA, it drops down to 38. In real-world driving, you'll be somewhere between 37 and 38, as long as you treat it gently. If you're driving at higher speeds, you can expect to get down towards 30 to 35 miles per gallon. But even just beating this out on my favorite winding mountain road, driving it hard, I still averaged about 35 miles per gallon. So this is still very, very good. The mechanical all-wheel drive system in this vehicle is a big differentiator between this and the RAV4 Hybrid. And it's useful in a wide variety of situations, not just out on a gravel road like this, where if I floor it, we get grip on all 4 wheels, no fuss, no muss, no front wheel spin, but also in daily driving situations. If you're on a steep uphill slope, even on pavement, say you're in San Francisco or you're in Seattle or some places like that with steep roads, and you floor it, you're gonna notice a lot of front wheel peel in those vehicles. You will not get that in here. And that's because we have that mechanical connection. And in a RAV4 Hybrid, when you want more power, it has to spin the engine. It has to spin those front wheels, even if there's no traction, in order to generate power and send it back there to the rear. Bottom line, if you're interested in high fuel economy, but you want a traditional feel out on the road, then you want to take a look at this hybrid system or the related system in the Hyundai Tucson, and you want to put these over something like the Escape, the RAV4, and the CR-V Hybrid. Obviously, the RAV4 Hybrid is the elephant in the room for the Sportage, and if you're concerned about long-term reliability, long-term maintenance costs, you might want to look at the RAV4 Hybrid instead. Its hybrid system is mechanically much simpler than this. We don't have a 6-speed automatic, we don't have a mechanical all-wheel drive system, we don't have a turbocharger under the hood. This does have a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty where all of that is covered for the average ownership cycle. But again, if you plan on keeping your car long-term, beyond 100,000 miles, beyond 10 years, you might want to look at the RAV4 Hybrid. On the other hand, it's not going to give you the level of comfort, the level of spaciousness, and the level of tech that we find in the Sportage. So for some shoppers out there, it may be worth the gamble. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section as well. And of course, check out all of our related videos. You'll find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those other places. And of course, check out the website. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see all of you later.